Hi, I'm Rick Dior, and welcome to episode 3 of Snare Drum of the Week. And today we're going to do the world famous Gretsch 4160. So this drum has a mixed reputation. Some people love it, and some people don't, similar to the Rogers Dynasonic. I happen to really like it, and I featured this drum on a video, maybe a few others, but a video that was all about jazz snare drums. And then I also featured it on a video that I did called Brass Snare Drums, but it never had its own show. So today we're going to show you this drum. I have a couple versions of it, and I'll show you the ins and outs of it and be as accurate as I can. So this is a heavy chrome over brass drum. It weighs about 10 to 10 and a half pounds. The newer one, which I have here, I'll show you that in a minute, the stop sign badge, is about half a pound heavier than this one for whatever reason. But it is a heavy drum. Now we'll compare it later on to a Ludwig chrome over brass snare drum. So this is a famous drum. I used it in the Rogers video that you saw with the Dynasonic. And this is the drum I've been gigging with for the last 30 years or so. It's my main gigging drum. It's good at everything. Some people don't like it, but a lot of people love it. And it's been on thousands of records. So it's a good drum to compare other metal drums to, brass drums that is, because it's a well-known sound and it's been on so many recordings. So we'll get to that in a minute, and we'll line all these three drums up eventually, and then I'll play them on the kit as I have been doing in the last couple videos. So first, this drum. This is a round badge Gretsch. So this is pretty old, this drum. This probably, I would say, anywhere from 1961 to 71. I think in 71 they switched over. Again, I am not a drum historian or really a collector. I just have a lot of snare drums. So this, I would guess this drum's probably from the 60s. And before that, they had other drums in the 50s. But I believe this particular drum is from probably the mid 60s is my guess. It's in great shape, as you see. Now, these drums are not expensive. You can get one that's in good shape for around $350. There was a 4165 that was a 10 lug version. This is 8 lug. That goes quite a bit higher, about $600, $650. Now, don't bother with that. There's not much of a difference. I have one of those too. I actually like the 4160s better. They don't have as many lugs. I think they ring a little longer. So I wouldn't worry about that. So it's a great deal in snare drums. For the price of an acrylite, pretty much these days, a Ludwig acrylite, you can get a really heavy, solid, round badge Gretsch drum. And I think it's only a matter of time before these things start going up in price. So like I said, it's an 8 lug drum, has die cast hoops, which really make it heavy and actually make it a little bit easier to tune. Now the tuning I use on these drums is normally an A flat. Okay? One thing about the Gretsch 4160s, they don't have a wide tuning range. The mistake a lot of people make is they crank them up way too tight and then it chokes the drum. You might as well use a piccolo snare drum at that point. You can crank these up without any problems though, but it just gets super tight and choked. So I think a good tuning for these, anywhere from a G to an A. Same thing here with this Ludwig drum. I just know from experience and recording a lot with it, that's the case. Now it's a great drum for playing jazz, which is what it was designed for, what it was designed for back in the day. I'll play it on this Yamaha Maple Custom Kit, jazz kit, in a little while. So this drum had the butt plate adjustment here. Okay, one of the first to do that, really. The later models had the square badge had a cover, and even some of the stop sign badges, this butt plate looked different. So you see how that looks there. It's kind of raw looking, all right? And then the lightning strainer here, not a huge fan of that, and I'll show you why. So the problem with the lightning strainer is going to be much more prominent when I show you the stop sign badge, is it's noisy. So a lot of times when you, well, I'll show you real quick. Hopefully this will come across. but when you turn it on, it's okay, but when it's off, it'll rattle. I don't know if you could hear that, but what's happening is the bottom of the lightning strainer hits the die-cast tube. It's not a great design, and all the ones I've ever played have that problem. So it's a super easy fix. You get these little rubber feet. They come sometimes with electronics and little speakers or whatnot. And you take that, you peel it off, and you put it under that strainer here. And that's it. So, and then that will hit the rim, and you're done. No more noise. Okay, I'll do it on that one in a minute. So that's what I recommend doing. Now, this drum needs to be muffled, in my opinion. It sounds good wide open, but it's a little too ringy. So I will be using these little leather pieces. You can also cut them in half if you want just a little bit of muffling. They do have internal mufflers. You see that giant muffler there. It's a two-prong sucker. And you probably just gasped about all these snares. That's the 42 strand original snares. And you know, it'll say power snares on there, okay? I left them on there. Well, I put them back on there today. Normally I use some pure sound snares on these. But, and these I swapped out for a Ludwig set because I just like those old snares. So, but I wanted to hear what it would sound like with these giant Gretsch snares. It sounds really good. It's very snary, as you can imagine. Okay, so we'll give you the quick tour here with my turntable. And you'll see right here the famous Gretsch drum key holder. And you would just pull the key out. And ingenious, very great. I wish all the drum manufacturers did it, but they had a patent on it. So I've actually have some other drums, especially an old Ludwig from the 20s that the original owner put something like this in much later, in the 50s. I'll show you that in another video. So it's useful if you need a drum key, you just grab it right out of there. Okay? And I already showed you the butt plate, 8 lugs. Very tough drum, man. These things last forever. And the only problem I have with it is that little strainer issue. But once you put that little piece of rubber on there, it's fixed. Okay, let's show you this other one. So this one is not in great shape like the other, but it's in good shape. And by the way, the heads I'm using, as usual, are the Remo Coated Ambassadors. I've been playing this one a lot lately, as you see. And this is what the stop sign badge looks like. I would probably date this drum about 1981 or so. 80s for sure. Okay. Let's see. Yeah, I wrote down some prices. I looked on Reverb and eBay. They're about $300 to $400, the stop sign badge one. So still a great deal. And this one's a little heavier, like I said, about a half of a pound heavier. So this is 10.5 pounds. That's 10 pounds, the round badge. I don't know why. So could be the hoops. The shell is very thick on these. That's why they're so heavy. And let's take this little dot here and put this on the bottom. And I want you to make sure you see that. So it's right there where it hits. See how it's hitting that rim? That's a problem. So you just take it and put it in there. It's a little tricky to get in there. And it just will compress against the rim then. Like that. Okay? So that fixes that. Now sometimes it falls out. The other thing you could do is just get some of that moleskin. You know, the stuff old ladies use for their bunions. Just go to the drugstore and put that on there too. It's a little unsightly, but it works just fine. Okay, good. One other thing about the Gretsch, it has this little kind of engraved band there. They all have it, these 4160s. This also has the same muffler. There are no paper tags in these drums. They have long since disintegrated, so I don't know the exact serial numbers of them, and there's no other serial numbers on there. Okay, but all that's different basically between these two drums that I know of, and from looking at them pretty closely, is the badge. So that's it. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to strike this stuff, and I'll stay on camera here. And we're going to set these 3 drums up here so you can hear them all together. Once again, the stands here I'm using for the 2 Gretsch drums are going to be these Pearl 1000 stands. They're just very easy to adjust. And once again, I've told you this before, I like the strainer to be at my waist or to the left, okay? Now the lightning strainer, when you're at the kit, one thing that'll happen is that it will hit your leg because of the way it goes down. So what you want to do is make sure it's a little bit to the left, to your left, okay? And we'll raise this up a little. And the last thing we'll do is we'll set up this Ludwig drum so we can play all of these together. All right, we'll check the tuning. Should be pretty close. I'm not going to be too picky. Close. A flat A, you know, it's definitely a flat A. All right, and you always want to, like I say, cover these up with some rubber. So we'll play this unmuffled first, and this is the 4160 round badge. And now we'll play the 4160 stop sign badge. Now what's obvious right away is how much drier the stop sign badge drum is. And it's always been like that from when I first got this. I had the round badge first. And then I got this, I'm like, oh my God, why is that so dry? I don't know. So the shell's perfectly round, same rims as far as I know. It is a little heavier. So my guess is that the shell is just a little thicker. And it's giving us, you know, the drums are probably 20 years apart. So they probably changed the shell supplier. And that's what happened. So I'm pretty sure. Okay, because it's, like I said, the same drum, same hardware, same amount of lugs, same depth, 5x14, but so dry. And then we'll play the Ludwig. And now we'll play all of them, unmuffled. So a lot of what you're hearing are those 42 strand snares on here. It's a very snary drum because of that. And that's something I really like about it with all those snares. So once I tighten it up here, we lose a little of that, okay? And the Ludwig is, I think, the most sensitive of all of them. So of all these, what I'm hearing and feeling is I'm not a huge fan of the square badge for whatever reason. I do use it. I use this drum to teach. Okay, so a lot of times the students will beat the crap out of it. But it's always sounded this dry. It's a very dry sounding drum. This drum, the 4160, is in mint condition. I use this a lot for performing and recording. And of course, I use this Ludwig exclusively for performing. All right. Sometimes the key will fall out. That's the only problem with these. It'll inch out. So we'll put this over here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to muffle these two drums, the Ludwig and this one. This one does not need muffling. It's already muffled sounding. So here we go. And what we'll do now, just so you can hear all kinds of different things, we'll turn them all off so you can hear the tom sound on them. So I'm a huge fan of the Ludwig cross stick, if you listen to that. And then the cross stick on here is also excellent. Okay, so these are two of the best drums, I feel like, for a cross stick, especially the die-cast tubes. And the die-cast tubes for me has a more solid feel for that cross stick than the Ludwig. Okay, and here it is on the stop sign badge. All right, so that's the three drums compared here. Now I'm going to go over to the drum set, and I'm going to put them up individually, and we'll see how they sound over there. All right, so here we are at the drum set. We'll play the 4160 round badge first, unmuffled. So these are all old Ks from the 50s, except for this giant Masterworks flat ride, which is like 26 inches. I think I've shown you this before. And these Sabian Vault Artisan hi-hats, 14-inch hi-hats. So I like this snare drum with these Ks. It's bright, right? But the cymbals are dark. They sound good together. You could hear it in the ghosting. Especially this round badge drum, it's extremely sensitive, and it lets you play really nice press rolls. And once again, those 42 strand snares have a lot to do with that. Okay, so we'll put this one down, and we'll put the other Gretsch up here. Now, I'm playing them unmuffled right now because I think they just sound better that way, personally. Let's see if I can do this without destroying my rack tom. Okay, this one's a little bit heavier, like I said earlier. And once again, no muffling. So this drum, to me, is a little bit boxy. Bit boxy for me, so not my favorite. It's amazing the difference between these two drums, which are essentially similar, except, like I said, this one's heavier. I think the shell is thicker. Okay, we'll put the Ludwig on here now. So you can hear that wide open. Just for reference, we won't play long. So, not a great jazz drum. I think the 4160 is an amazing jazz snare drum. Not so much the Ludwig, but for rock, it's super aggressive. Somebody commented last video that it sounded angry, kind of like that. That made me laugh. I don't know why the drum would be angry, but I think I wrote back that I treat it pretty well. But it's definitely got an attitude. It's bright, it's thick, and it records great. So the verdict for me, I don't know about you guys out there, but I really love the 4160 round badge. And I've played a number of these old round badge drums, and to me they sound a lot better than the stop sign badge. So we'll put this back up here. So if you're going to buy one, play it safe and get an old round badge. Now the new Gretsch drums, I have not tried those, so I cannot, say anything one way or the other, because I haven't used them. If Gretsch wants to send me one, I'll try one, but I'm not going to buy one because I'm perfectly happy with this old one. So we'll put some muffling on it. We'll see what this sounds like for playing a little more straight stuff, simple stuff. Remember, this is a jazz kit, so the bass drum is an 18, okay? So it's not going to have the oomph of a 20 or definitely not a 22. So this is a jazz kit. So. Sounds good on the backbeat stuff, but it's not the Ludwig. Doesn't feel great muffled. Okay, so I use this drum all the time for playing jazz gigs, and in the studio as well. So I hope you got a bit out of this about these drums. Great drums, but they are all a little bit different. Again, my recommendation is a old round badge 4160. They could be had for $300, $350. You can make a deal. There's a ton of them made. When I was a kid, I remember going over the Williamsburg Bridge. I lived out there for a while, seeing the Gretsch factory. I think it was going into town or into New York. It was on my right over the bridge. And, that's where they imported the old Ks until 73 or something. Then they sold the rights back to Zildjian, which is funny. But So Gretsch, we used to distribute the old Ks back in those days, and then this is where those drums, I believe, were made in that factory in Williamsburg. So just a little bit of trivia there for you. So we'll play a little, and we'll see you next time.